Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be here. I was invited by Dr. Lorley Johnson to offer a piece of this course that hasn't been taught before. So you're going to see some new stuff that wasn't on earlier slides. One of the reasons she did that was I think that she now works in my division. And for her to continue in this course, we said, well, why don't we talk about some of the things or more of the things that happen at FDA, because she's now at FDA. And certainly FDA is very concerned with clinical trials, how they're done well, all of the things that you guys have been talking about throughout the 2 semesters or the months. So I took a chance to look at all the slides and try to figure out how I could contribute. And the title that I was given was Electronic Health Records and Clinical Data Interchange Standards. And I can't exactly poll the audience out in the ether world. But how many people have ever here in this building have heard of CDISC? Okay, good. So you will learn hopefully something new today. Now, electronic health records, I'm going to sort of save to the end, and you'll see as we go along, I'll try to provide sort of my perspective on things and what happens within the agency. So I direct a Office of Division of Biostatistics at the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. That means that all of the statisticians working in my division work on a particular group of medical products that come into the Office of Drug Evaluation, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's see, okay, that just goes, I do put the disclaimer. It's very important for us to say that what I'm going to be saying is not necessarily, or should it reflect necessarily the views of the agency. I'd like to acknowledge, I always do this because I steal slides from people, so even if they don't know it, I stole their slides, but these are people that I worked with through the years on some of these efforts, and we borrow each other's slides. A mixture of people from CDISC and from CEDAR. So, in looking at your course and thinking about what we do, and also I teach a clinical trials course at the agency in the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, and I always start with this slide because for us, it's important to think that what we're doing here with clinical trials and the work that we do in creating them and gathering them, whether you're in data management or clinical trial monitoring or all of the kinds of things that are associated with trials, you're working in science. You're working in an area that you're trying to observe. This is like a big telescope on the world. You know, we can tell what we can do if we can get the right observation instruments. And so science, statistics, and experimental design, these are things that go together for me because I work at the agency and I'm a statistician. But I just like to think about, so science is concerned with understanding variability in nature, so observing nature and understanding the variability. Statistics is concerned, for the most part, with making decisions about nature in the presence of variability. In other words, we wouldn't have to have trials, and you've heard this 100 times probably, if everybody responded exactly the same way to each stimulus or each drug, or every time something happened, we responded the same way. But there's a lot of variability, so that we know when we put a clinical trial together, we're going to get results that vary quite a bit between individuals. So when we try to show a difference, like we're trying to look at the effect of a new drug, we're going to see differences, and we need to have the ability to determine at what point do we feel that we have enough evidence that we can approve a drug. So you have to make decisions. When I come to NIH, I don't make the joke, but oftentimes NIH does studies and they learn a lot of stuff, and then they ask a lot more questions, and then they do more studies. So a lot of your product, and certainly the product of the studies we do, is to ask more questions, to learn more, and get more science. We have to, however, at the agency, have to say your drug is approved. You can say these things about your drug. So we have to make decisions when we do that. And so that's why this whole thing of doing a study, doing it right, having the company give us the information and us make a decision is very important to us. So experimental design, what we're talking about here, clinical trials, is concerned with reducing that variability and so that we can see these differences and controlling the variability in ways which we can use statistical theory then to make those decisions. And there's a lot that comes into that, and you've learned a lot about that as we've gone through this course. So, also when I was thinking about this course, this isn't in the title, but it's possible that a lot of you have seen, and certainly at NIH, you're very much more transparent than we are with the data. In other words, people do studies with government money, and they have to produce data that then it can be used and reused. Within the FDA kind of environment, we don't have that kind of ability. The data that are collected are kept behind sort of a firewall, a commercial firewall. But at the same time, when patients enter a study, they're concerned whether they're doing it for commercial purpose or whether they're doing it at NIH. They're concerned with contributing to finding out things and to be part of the science process. And that's how we recruit them, and that's what we tell them that we're going to do. So there's been a lot of interest recently, and I think both political and scientific, in making sure that any data that are collected are transparent. We've even seen in the last 5 or 10 years, 5 years maybe, the companies themselves have created a number of websites where you can go and look at the clinical trials data from approved drugs. And if we have some time, we could talk more about that if you have questions. I've never done this before. Do we stop and ask questions as we go, or do you have to listen to me for the whole time? I'm taking that as you listen to me for the whole time. Okay. Anyway, so transparency is a big deal. And as we get into this data sharing thing, obviously it's very helpful for scientists as they share the data from other trials to be able to know very quickly what's available, what are the data, how were the data collected, the protocols, and also in general what the data and the structures look like. So if you have standardized data and data that everybody uses and has the same name every time they use it, then that becomes something that makes it even more useful for additional research. And they're finding that now that they're sharing the data. And even the companies, as they share the data, find that it's a lot easier for them to share it if they put it into standards originally. And if they put it into a common standard, everybody understands it. Companies have always collected data and created their own standards, and they use them internally. But that wasn't something that necessarily was done by another company. And so we're going to discuss a lot about what happens or what's happened to the FDA that's changed all that. So responsible sharing of the data. This is from an Institute of Medicine recent 2015 report. And they had a big meeting. They got together and they put one of those big monographs together. So this is available out on the web to think about. But responsible sharing of the data gleaned from clinical trials will increase the validity and extent of this evidence. That's sort of our motive too, or one of our big motives for what we're going to be talking about. So, science, transparency, and my assumptions coming into the course. I took the opportunity before I sort of got in front of you here and put some slides together to look through what you've done already. And I know that you've done a lot of work in terms of doing good clinical trial practice or good clinical research practice, thinking about questions. I think John Powers is in. He's an ex-FDAer. Laura Lee Johnson. A lot of those people were giving you a lot of these talks that sort of set the stage for the planning and also statistical analysis. Also, you learned a lot about the legal and ethical principles. So this is really a very broad-based view of what a trial could and should be. But getting more into this sort of semester or this module, we see topics like data management and drug development in general, what's the overall, and FDA product regulations. So I'm sort of going, whatever I tell you now is assuming that you are now experts in all those fields, and I will try and build on what you've already learned so that I hopefully won't repeat too many things, but if you're from the FDA, you always repeat. So I'm going to have to get used to this mouse. Let's see. Okay, here's my black box warning. Everybody knows that the FDA, in fact, the FDA came about because we needed truth in advertising and when we sell things, so and pharmaceuticals and medical products. So whenever we have sort of a warning on a label that says you better think about this while you take this drug, that's what we call a black box warning. And my black box warning for this talk is, number one, FDA is a big place. And you learned about it, you learned what the organization looked like. And I come from one piece of that big place. I come from the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, okay, CDER. So this view that you're going to get is fairly CDER-centric. CDER certainly is probably the largest center. It is the largest center. It's the one that pays the most attention to clinical trials and clinical studies for drug approval. But all of the centers are science-based and data-based. And the regulations are actually different. So if you want to approve a device versus a drug, you are looking at a different law. So you have a different set of expectations in terms of how you develop the evidence. An illustration of that would be CDRH, the drug, devices group. Their law is more like something like a preponderance of evidence, and they have a lot of leeway into what they can do in terms of the evidence. Our regulations, FDA, and you learned a little bit about them, 21 CFR 14, describe exactly what you need in terms of trials, adequate and well-controlled trials. So there are differences, and BLA has some, I mean, the BLA is another law that came in later that also has some differences, but very similar to ours in terms of evidence. FDA regulation and guidance codifies good research practice. If you want to see how you should report a study, if you want to see how all of the issues that might be, whether you're studying for a drug or you're doing anything, it's pretty appropriate to think about what the FDA is saying and what the CDER is saying about this particular endeavor. So it really codifies it. It really looks and say, okay, if you're going to have an adequate and well-controlled trial, you've got to do these things. And that's sort of what we then use in order to make our judgments as to whether we have the evidence to make an approval. The primary focus of this talk, even though we look at research studies, clinical research studies from all over the spectrum of sort of drug development, biologics development, the primary focus here is going to be phase 3 studies. And when you think phase 3, you think confirmatory. So these are the studies that are done at the end that say, okay, this study shows what I've already found out, and I'm going to confirm to you and make it evident and these are the big studies. Also, it's trials, it's generally 2. A CDER statistical reviewer's perspective, that will be the perspective here. I'm not going to get, we work as teams on drug approval, but mine will be primarily the statistician's perspective. Now, if you feel that this is sort of the reason I'm here in a way. If you feel that your clinical research, and I'm talking about whether you're developing an endpoint, whether you're doing a study, a trial, whether you're doing clinical pharmacology studies, a lot of different kinds of studies. If you think it's going to contribute, and even if you're sort of studying an orphan disease and thinking about, okay, I have some patients that are coming to me, I'm going to try different things, you should be thinking about what we're saying here, because that may end up as evidence. We not only have our controlled trials that we confirm with, but we have all the evidence that went in to create those trials, and we look at all that evidence. So if you're doing something and you're going to have to submit data to us, which is generally the case, then you want to pay attention to thinking about data standards and what I'm going to be describing. And I think that I know that this is a big group. I mean, there's all of you, but then there's, I guess, many more people out there who are going to have to look at my face and to listen to this. And this, whatever we're talking about here really is a global enterprise. If we look at the number of studies that we do or on a large confirmatory trial, the amount of data that is now data from outside the United States is a large proportion of our data. So these studies are being run all over the world. And it's important for researchers all over the world to understand what's going to be needed when these studies are ready to be submitted. So that's my black box warning. Outline is pretty simple. I'm going to talk a little bit about substantial evidence and FDA CDER review of confirmatory trials, as I warned you. Then I'm going to talk about what CDISC data standards are. And something that was sort of touched on by one of your speakers maybe a week ago in thinking about we now have a new really requirement. We call it a binding guidance, but after a certain date, any study started after that date is going to have to come in as a data standardized data. So they will have to use all the same standards. We'll talk about CDISC basics so you get some sense of all the data that you collect and where you can put it. And actually, as I talk about CDISC, I'm also going to share some recent experience in studying Ebola in Africa and thinking about trials that are there and getting sort of beyond the kind of the general framework of what we do in trials. And you'll see that the kind of thing that CDISC does in putting data to standards to data can be applied in a lot of different areas. And I'm going to also end up by talking a little about e-health records. I mean, you could obviously spend weeks and months and years talking about e-health and what's going on within the field. I'm just going to try and, again, use my own perspective of what's happening and some of the things that we're doing at the agency. Going the wrong way again. So the mission, you got this already. We basically responsible for protecting public health. And the thing that came in 1997, we're also responsible for advancing public health by speeding innovation. So it used to be for most of our existence, we just sort of said, okay, is this drug, is this product good enough? Now we're supposed to be thinking, okay, no, how do we get it to be better? How do we think internally, and how do we work with companies to think internally about innovations? So we'll be talking about that when we talk about standards, because we need to get the public the accurate information they need. So if you look at this, now this is going to, so I'm sorry, this doesn't have any of the animation, I take it. This is all PDFs? There's no PowerPoint? Sorry, this is the first time I've done that. This is all PDF. There's no PowerPoint. Is that it? And so you remove the extra slides that were in the PDF? Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm just not using my mouse correctly. Apologies. So this is review, and this is data standards and EHR. But they're both things that are part of our mission and what we're doing. Okay. All right. So that's the FDA. I mean, I think you saw a slide similar to this. A pretty big organization with a lot of boxes. And if I were to tell you where CDER was in this organization, I'd say, okay, it's right there. That's the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. So I think that we all sort of, in our own organizations, come from some perspective, and that's where my organization is. It's headed right now by a woman by the name of Janet Woodcock. Janet is very prominent in front of Congress almost on a weekly basis, because this is a very hot area for political discussions. Now, if you look at just within CDER, okay, so we've taken CDER and we created it. Now we're thinking, okay, where do I exist? This is the Office of New Drugs. So that's where most of the NDAs and BLAs will be reviewed. I'm not going to go into all the organization, but this is where I exist in the Office of Biostatistics. So I'm with the Office of Translational Science, and we work in teams with the people within the OND. So that's my perspective. One of the things that's a little bit has changed over the last 20 years that most people don't realize is that although we have a drug evaluation and research center and a biologics evaluation and research center, almost all of the BLAs are reviewed by CDER. Okay, almost all, except for vaccines, which is a majority of the work at CBER, and a few other small areas. So most BLAs come to CDER. So when I talk about what CDER is saying, it applies to both biologics and drugs. And within CDER, the primary offices for review, in my perspective, of clinical studies data or clinical trials or thinking about clinical trials are OND and the Office of Biostatistics. This is the Office of Biostatistics. So there's a few people there. I think we're up to about 200 PhD statisticians. That's within CDER. That's not the whole agency. So it's a large organization now, has grown because of the importance of doing things right and doing it quickly And we'll talk a little bit about that. So that's all of my office. And I guess that's me right there. And when we all get together and we're sitting in our review teams, we worry a lot. Okay, we worry about the data we receive. And we worry mostly about the fact that we are sort of the group that has to do what I call due decision diligence. Meaning the public is expecting us to make the right decisions, so that when it says FDA is approved, that we've made the right decisions and they're saying the right things about the drug. As we would all expect, within this kind of environment, even within an academic environment, we do worry about bias. We see this all the time within publications and the issues associated with getting your publication produced. And bias is a preconceived personal preference or inclination, what influences the way something is measured, analyzed, assessed, or a procedure is performed or reported. So all of these things can affect what we see and what we call evidence. And obviously you've learned from your clinical trials course that there's a lot of things that are put in place, like blinding or masking, randomization so that you select the right patients, that you don't, you have a way of not including this bias in the design. And if obviously that blinding doesn't work, then there can be bias associated with the measurement. And a lot of other places. I mean, we can be biased, obviously. Even as we're reviewing, we might have a bias and we have to protect ourselves against that. And the reason is because this is always a risk-benefit decision. If you think about when you're approving a drug, no drug is perfect. They all have some risk associated with them. No drug works, well, very few drugs work on everybody and cure you immediately. And so there's always the benefit issues that come in. What we worry about is that bias that lifts up the benefit and bias that might reduce the risk. So if you don't report a death or two, then that's going to reduce the apparent risk of the trial because it's in a controlled environment. We're trying to make our observations. And so I like this because that's my animation right there. Anyway, so that's what we try to prevent as part of what we do every day. And so how do we do that? Well, we depend on something called substantial evidence. It's in the CFR. The Food and Drug Administration considers these characteristics, as I told you in the beginning, that describe whether a study is well controlled. Reports of adequate and well-controlled investigations provide the primary basis for determining whether there is substantial evidence. So these trials, these phase 3 confirmatory trials are put together, and we can say what we see there. I know that this was mentioned also, but I would recommend to everybody who does clinical trials and thinks about confirmatory trials, or everybody who does research in a way, look at this document, which is really the definition from a statistical perspective, but also a design perspective, on what you need to have in a well-controlled trial, a phase 3 trial, and what you ought to do as you analyze it so that you don't introduce bias. Statisticians, for example, might say, well, and this used to happen, they might say something like, in the protocol, I will apply appropriate statistical methodologies. And then if you look at the range of the statistical methodologies that might be used, you get a lot of different answers. So this document is really the first effort back in the late 90s, I believe, 98, I guess, in which we said, you have to do this. You have to propose, and you've talked about this in the class too, to do this right, you have to pre-specify how you're going to analyze the data. And that's what you stick to in order to make sure that the type 1 error is correct. So this is something that came out, and this is what we worry about and think about as we're designing and analyzing and reviewing trials. And what we really need for our gold standard has been for a while, 2 adequate and well-controlled confirmatory trials, pre-specified endpoints, sample size and analysis. In other words, you don't get to say, hey, I'd like to show this in 300 people and then find out you can't see it in 300. Say, well, let's put another 300 into the study. All of that has to be up front and pre-specified to be an adequate and well-controlled clinical trial. You don't get to just add it and keep going. Two-sided p-value. Some would argue that that's really conservative. Others would argue that that's very liberal, but that's sort of the risk to the public as to whether or not we know something. And clinical benefit is something that we always consider also. So, and when we do it, we sit down at our desk and we have this time frame, which I think you've seen, in which we sort of talk to the companies and we receive everything, we decide it's okay, and then we have a certain number of months to finish. Now, it turns out that those months are getting shrunk by something called PDUFA and sort of agreements with industry. Does anybody know what PDUFA means? If I were to ask you, okay. PDUFA stands for Prescription Drug User Fee Act. In other words, actually now, most of the money that comes and supports the FDA review division, like my division, comes out of user fees. And so the user fees were negotiated every 5 years with Congress and the industry, and we have certain expectations to how quickly we're going to do things and what we're going to do. And then every time a new product comes in, we're paid to review that product. But a lot of these have gotten shorter. We have a lot of different paths depending on the drug. So I show this and it says, hey, 10 months, I can review something. Well, it may be that you have a lot less time and you have a lot of products to review. So that's something that becomes very apparent when you think of all the things that you have to do. And I'm not going to go through this line by line, but this just gives you a sense of the things that we have to do as statistical reviewers when we're trying to answer questions that we have in review to determine if a study is adequate and well controlled. You'll see right up there is something, well, I'll call it assess traceability. That means that as companies give us the information and the data, we have to be able to take the data that we have and that we're looking at and trace it all the way back to the source documents. So that if it says 0.354, that we're going to be able to find that back where that was created or where those data were collected and we have certain requirements that you've already learned. So we look for a lot of these things to determine whether or not a company may have biased their result or may have ignored things that we needed to know. May not have played the game correctly. And so when we do that, this is our first call. Show me the data. And we've had this ever since I actually got to the agency I hate to tell you, it was 28 years ago. We used to get tapes, magnetic tapes, and take them into our computer room and run the data. So we've been doing this for a long time. And one of the things that we've recognized that we could do with the data, in addition to all the statistical analysis, is we can now get graphic displays of the data so that you can look at the history, for example, and this is one that was proposed a number of years ago and now is used in tools that we have developed. You can look at what happened to a patient so that you can try to explain if you see an adverse event, what kind of con meds were they taking, what other kinds of activities, how close it was to the dosing, all of these things. So this is a review tool that we thought was very powerful that clinicians especially could look at for safety issues. Show me the data. And now we've gotten much more sophisticated. And we've said, okay, there's a lot of different tools that we can use. We can take this data and we can get all these different kinds of looks right up front because we have that timeline that we have to meet. We have to ask the questions quickly and answer them. And so we're very interested in tools. But these tools don't work unless you have standardized data. You can't have every company come in and sort of describe how they're going to collect the data. Here's my defined file. This is what I did, because then you've got to take that and transcribe that into your system so that your tool understands what the data are. And so you have this need for a lot of review, very thorough review to detect bias and to protect the public. And you get all this data, and you then have to be able to look at this. It used to be that a lot of clinicians would take home like spreadsheets of case report tabulations, and they'd look at them in the table, or they'd highlight stuff, and they do that and spend a lot of time that they needed that wasn't that beneficial. But now we have tools, and we need standards. And this is just a continuation of that. These are all tools that we develop and are available for everybody because we're the government. Okay, so we decided, hey, we needed to have standards. I started working on data standards in the late 1990s, We sat around a table and we said, okay, we have tools, we want to make tools. Let's do standards. So a bunch of us sat around a table at the FDA, at the Park Lawn building in Rockville, and we said, okay, it's got to be pretty easy. So, let's look at the first one. Well, let's look at gender. Male, female, maybe a couple of others. Okay, we're at and then we got to ethnicity, and we got stuck, and we said, we'll never be able to do this because we can't create a standard for ethnicity. But also, that you could just see how difficult it was. So eventually companies got together and they decided that they could produce a standard they could all live with. But in 2004, we said that people could produce and submit the standard, but there was no regulation that said you had to submit it. And every 5 years, PDUFA comes along and says, okay, it's time again to think about drug review and evaluation. Do we need new laws, not just regulations, but laws? And in the last PDUFA, PDUFA 5, it was actually put in there that you shall create a standardized review environment. And you shall have an environment in which everything comes in electronically. Now, I've taken a number of those slides out. I haven't given you the full history of how that's happened, but we now have the ability to sit at home on these snowy days in Washington and work straight through, because all of the documents for an NDA are available electronically and all the data are available. And we all have computers that we carry back and forth. So we've turned it into an electronic environment. But to use these tools, we need to have the standards established. And so this was a method or a methodology developed by the lawyers that said, okay, we were going to take and say that we are going to have all of these guidances available. And we are going to say that once these guidances are available, you're going to have to submit. So that's what I sort of talked about at the beginning. I'm not going to go into each of these. So 24 months after the final guidance, of course, this is negotiated with industry and goes through Congress. So there's a lot of lobbyists involved in deciding, I didn't say that, in deciding what's going to be in that law. But they decided that they could live with the notion that at 24 months after we got the guidance ready, in other words, we said that you had to submit standards, then they would have to start any study and submit standards. So it's going to take a while. It's going to take 5 or 6 years. For many years, we were the only country in the world that kept the data. EMA, all of the EMA countries, none of the regulatory authorities in those countries request the data. Until recently, the Japanese government has said, okay, we are going to require data too. And the things that I'm talking about here are also almost exactly the things that the Japanese government is going to be requiring. So this has gone global in terms of what the data standards would be for drug development. Not just the FDA. We were in Tokyo about 2 weeks ago, right after that storm in Washington, had to fly out of Dulles. It got canceled. But we ended up with the Japanese in Tokyo saying, okay, do we have differences here? And why do we have differences? Let's make it the same. And so it's been quite a process globally. So now the new thing, and this is what I'm saying. It used to be we said, okay, standards were nice. If you wanted to send us the standardized data because they were available, you could do it. Companies kept their own standards and weren't too happy necessarily to change. And so now we're saying, show me the high quality CDISC standardized data. CDISC is actually mentioned in the law as the organization. Just like as if you had HIPAA and the SDO, or the Standards Development Organization for HIPAA, is HL7. CDISC is in our PDUFA. So CDISC stands for, and this is where you're going to be quizzed on the way out and you can't go home until you learn it. Clinical Data Interchange Standards Consortium. That's what CDISC stands for. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what CDISC is and how these submission data standards come to CDER and what they look like, so you have a sense. If you're out there, any people involved in data management in trials? Okay, it may not mean that much to you, but you'll just think about it. If you use data as a researcher, or if you put data together, the notion is you want to know where the data are and how to put them together. So that's what CDISC gives us a way to do that. And those are the data that are submitted to CDER. And I'm going to talk about developing Ebola TAs or therapeutic area standards, just a quick kind of view just to give a sense of this is not necessarily a drug that's coming in, but it's a whole way of thinking about how we can study drugs in an epidemic situation, which is kind of an interesting thought. So CDISC is a global standards development organization, another acronym for you, SDO, founded in 1997, all volunteer organization. Well, it says all volunteers started it. There was a few paid now. Incorporated in 2000 as a nonprofit, over 300 member organizations now associated with it, in 90 countries and coordinating committees throughout the world. So it's in almost every country in the world now that develops drugs or does research. The CDISC vision is to inform patient care and safety through higher quality medical research. So it's gone a lot behind. It's not just to produce products. It's with the notion that all of the things you do in medical research, if you standardize the data, you're going to be able to produce better results and better usable results. And the mission is to develop and support global platform independent data standards that enable information system interoperability to improve medical research in related areas of healthcare. Almost sounds like an NIH project. I mean, a lot of the NIH work obviously has to be open source, has to be, you can't define a platform, all of those things that you want to use. And actually, a lot of the work that we've done over the years in developing some of the tools and the capabilities is based here at NIH, particularly with the NCI, with the National Cancer Institute. Because the Cancer Institute had the same need that we had, which was to receive data from a lot of different organizations, all of the cooperative groups, and then to look at it and to make sure their money was well spent. So they had a lot of the same needs. And then you have so CDISC standards from the viewpoint of CDISC, and I think they're right, streamline research processes, support all types of research and protocol through analysis and reporting, include link to healthcare through EHRs, and that's sort of that last thing we'll talk about. But you can see here that it says support all types of research from protocol through analysis and reporting. Okay, so they are developing or have developed things that are actually being used to do that. Now, from our perspective, all we're saying is submit CDISC data. But there's a lot more to the CDISC environment that promotes this. So this is a question, and this obviously, do you need standards, okay? Do you have limited time to complete research program? Do you do protocol-based clinical research? Do you annotate, acquire, aggregate, analyze, archive data? And this could be, if you think about it, it could be registries, it could be a lot of different places in which you are, even files in a patient, patient setting. Not EHRs necessarily, but just a records that a physician had. What we're finding out, for example, in orphan drugs is that orphan drugs oftentimes, obviously you can't apply the usual two, large confirmatory trials to think about or approve an orphan drug. You have to be saying, okay, I know everybody in the world that has this particular condition. And we've tried different things, and we then have to say, okay, whether or not we feel that it's something that's going to help all of the population. So you can't do a regular trial. You can't randomize. You can't, people are getting what's needed. But you want to have the data in a way that you can look at it and aggregate it and graphically display to give yourself some comfort that the data represents some evidence. So anybody who's collecting data, do you want to save time and cost? Do you have limited resources? Do you want high quality data? And of course, they're gonna say, so it is a data quality issue. If you said yes, you need standards. This goes on and says you intend to acquire another company. Now, this is something that's interesting because the way drugs are developed now, sort of the new model, it used to be that you had these big companies, they produced blockbusters, so everything could be done internally and they could control it. Much more now you have startups coming out of spin-offs, coming out of research institutes and things like that develop new drugs. And if everybody's paying attention to data standards, when they do trials, and again, research studies, it doesn't have to be the big clinical trials. When they do any clinical research, if they're using standards, it's easy to share and to use within other environments as a company buys this company. If you have two big companies that merge, and it would be nice if the standards just went with them. And so I think that we're starting to see that that's happening. Do you want to retrieve data from EHRs? And again, you'll see at the end here that CDISC really has spent a lot of time thinking about how to make this happen. I'm not going to spend a lot of time today, but this is an organization that thinks about it. Do you need to be transparent or compliant? Do you work with partners, in other words, other groups and research partners? Do you track, report safety? Do you submit the data to the US FDA or to PEMDA? So that, as I mentioned, the Japanese now say PEMDA is the pharmaceutical and devices, let's see, I want to say pharmaceutical manufacturing devices, but it is their FDA, and that was created a number of years ago. So the answer would be yes to that too. So let's look at just a very simple graphic schematic of all of the kinds of standards and all the things they're trying to put together. So that comes in from the planning and the protocol, through the case report forms, through data capture, data management, analysis, submission, reporting. With the CDISC, if you sort of buy into and adopt the standard, you're able to archive everything, you're able to audit, provide audit trails, know where data were changed. Again, I think you guys have talked about this in this course, is that a big part of data management is you may send out queries, and then you may respond to those queries, and you may clean up the data to some extent. And all of that can be tracked in automatically within a standardized system. Otherwise, I've been in a number of investigations over the years that I've been there. The way you find these things, they're in letters and stuff. They're sitting in file cabinets, and you got to go through. So every time you want to investigate one query or what happened, it becomes quite an investigation, and you don't know who was responsible. So all of this stuff, and that's sort of how they're looking at it from end to end. And if you put it together as blocks of, and I'm not going to go into all of these, but basically they have protocol plans, they have something called CDISC products, which are case report forms and the way that you would organize and describe those. And then you have the data tabulations. SEND, for example, is for non-clinical studies, for the animal studies. ATOM is where they do the analysis. And then within this, they have all of the layer that says this is the way we're going to exchange and describe the data to each of these different systems. And you end up with a define.xml, which is a define file that describes all of the things that you have in a study. And at the bottom there, you see something called therapeutic area products. What's happened is that most of the early work on CDISC was for those things in a trial that were normal for every trial. So that all the demographics, all the adverse events, all the concomitant meds, all of that was standardized first, and that's pretty ordinary, not ordinary, but it's something that everybody could get comfortable standardizing. Now, again, coming out of PDUFA 5 is a push that we're saying, okay, now we need to get to sort of the efficacy or the therapeutic area side of things. So there's about 57 different therapeutic areas where we're developing standards. So that if you have an endpoint, for example, for cystic fibrosis, then there will be an endpoint, and you call it a certain thing, and you create it a certain way. And so all those standards are now in development. In fact, the one that I'm going to describe with Ebola, though it's not on our list, is something that's along the same lines. And then they have products that will help it link to healthcare. And all of these things, semantics, a glossary, controlled terminology, and a bridge, which is really a data model that allows you to move from HL7 submissions, and how many people HL7? Okay, well, HL7 is another standard that's been established, again, primarily out of the HIPAA experience, but for interactions within clinics, and it's used quite a bit by hospitals. And there's something called CDISC Share, which ties all this together. So there's an attempt to tie together standards that are already in place, but also to make a product that's available so that if you want to do a study, you can just go to this, and this is all open and available to everybody. If you want to do a study in a certain area, you can find the tools that you need to create case report forms and do the studies. So I'll go from there. And this is just another way of looking at some of the things that they think about as they do it. and where they exist. And I'm not going to be able to go into detail. A lot of training, CDISC offers a lot of training. You're able to learn this stuff. So the submission standards to FDA, however, are not all that big picture. You know, FDA is not telling people you have to use the protocol standards or the CDISC standards. We're just saying that you have to submit it, you know, based on these standards. So how you get it is another question. And the things that we are saying you have to submit: study data tabulation model, SDTM, ADAM, analysis data model, and therapeutic area standards that I just described. So if you look at SDTM, it comes from out of the data management and the capture. I look at SDTM as the observed data. So in the chain of evidence or the chain of regulation, the FDA originally, and I had pictures in here I took out because I thought it would be too much time. The FDA used to get every case report form from every study. Okay, a copy. That meant that every paper had to be made a copy. We used to get submissions that could be 4 semis coming into a warehouse because of the regulation said for the FDA to trust, or for the government or the people of America to trust what that company did, we have to see every case report form, or we have to have it available for us. And so in 1985, we said, no, we don't have enough room to store all these case report forms. I mean, you got oncology case report forms that might be 500 pages long or something. I mean, that's a lot of paper. So we said in 1985 that you can just give us a case report tabulation. So we still required that you would give us all the data, but it could then be in tabulation form. And from there we went into, and you learned again about it earlier, 21 CFR 11 gave us the ability to store these data electronically, and then eventually we could define how we wanted it for studies. And so then we ended up with the study data, starting with the paper case report forms. I'd say in my long history, one of the studies I had to do was I was in a group in which we were looking at a drug that was actually on 60 Minutes, a television show, 4 times. And that meant that we had to put a lot of scrutiny on that drug. And we had to go find those case report forms that were sitting in that warehouse, because a lot of these drugs, a lot of the studies were done during that period. And we pulled them out and we had to remanage them. We had to then go through all of the case report forms and see if we got the same answers. So you can see you might need that as backup. Hopefully we'll never need it again. So here's where the SDTM comes, collected and observed data. Again, CDISC. A lot of description here of it's one model, but it has preclinical and clinical and therapeutic areas, devices. A lot of different things are being put into that model, that way of looking at the data. And the thing I sort of started this whole thing with getting interested in as a statistician and somebody reviewing was I really wanted to have standard variable names, lists of values, sets of data, things that I could look at and grab easily. And so that's a lot of the things that are part of that model concept. And it can be designed to hold anything you collect. It doesn't mean that if they don't have your name and your variable that you don't collect it. You are able to define it. But you can still then add to and say, well, if this is collected enough, it may need to have a standard. And it's backward compatible but evolving. And the value of SDTM is that you're able to look at the data very quickly. You have these tools, you can see things, you can see quality issues, you can create programs that allow you, because all data management now is real time. You don't break the blind, but you can see the data as it's collected, whether it's from EDC or even from batch jobs. An initial review of the data, warehousing of the data, data mining, all of these things become much more able to do if you have SDTM or observed data. We've created a warehouse, basically, that allows us to ask questions across classes of drugs, all because of this. Otherwise, we'd have to take each study that was done and then try to merge it into something that we could look at. Potential to improve the review and approval, supports data warehousing, creates the opportunity for usability for organizations. That what I talked about originally, the transparency. If companies can put out their data in a standardized format, it's much easier for researchers to get in and then use that data and describe the use of it. Facilities, collaborations, acquisitions, all the things we talked about. You can see there's a lot of advantages to data standards. This is a slide that just says without it, you've got all this variability. You are not able to put the things together. Even down to subject identifiers look different, subject IDs, how you define male, sex, everything makes it very hard to work with. And when you have a standard, then you have that lack of variability. Consistent format and standard allows you to merge files and to do the things you need to do. We have one of our requirements within that NDA description, something called an integrated summary of safety. So companies actually have to bring together the studies that they do in terms of safety and describe them, merge them together and integrate them. This makes it much easier to do that. What was happening was companies generally created their own, but they were all different. Okay, and this just is logically all of the different things that you can see: vital signs, lab results, ECG results, findings, adverse events, medical histories, disposition. All of those things are defined and described within this SDTM. So all of the things that you sit down and do a clinical study of some sort, there's going to be a place for it. And then for us, and if you think about what our role is, as I described in the beginning, it's not just to receive the data and to put it up and to look at it and say that's nice. It's really to look at what happened in the analysis and to maybe to reanalyze and to see if we trust what was done. And so we also have standards for the way that you put analysis data together, so that we can always go to a certain place and we know that that's where the primary endpoint is, and we know we can look at data and we can say, okay, all of the elements that create a particular derived variable are stored in a certain way. And that makes it much easier for us rather than figuring that out for each company. And the basic concept: support analyses, one proc away. With Atom-defined XML provides traceability back to the SDTM. So this, when we have this, then we're able to trace more easily the way that the companies supported their analysis. Some repeats there. So that all means you get that, and now we have something called Jumpstart. And this means that every NDA that comes in now with standardized data, and even though it's not required yet, a lot of companies submit standardized data. Every one that comes in, we get into a war room, not as big as this. We get into a war room and we say, okay, what do these data look like? Where do we have issues? Where are there outliers and problems and things? And we have a number of tools that allow us to take all that data and do that and have that discussion early on in the review process. And that's just for the ones that submit standardized data. So we are doing this right now in-house, just like you would in any kind of a project where you wanted to have an overview of something that was going on. And then one of the things that I put in here, just this notion, is that this also is thinking about protocols and describing case report forms, and there's something called CDISC. And the intent here was originally started by something called CROs. CRO is a contract research organization. I think NIH hires a lot of CROs to do studies, or people do studies with NIH. But the CROs were always saying, okay, well, you're the FDA, you can sort of tell people what to do, but we can't tell anybody what to do. They have to contract with us, and then they give us the data that they want to have collected or analyzed or produced for the submission. But they were getting all sorts of different standards. Every company had a different standard. So every time they went to a different company, they had to work with a different standard. So they got together and say, well, maybe if we could get everybody to agree on common case report forms, we could change this and make this a lot easier for everybody. Some of the CROs now have told me that they charge less for companies that are requiring the use of data standards because it's so much easier. And they develop tools in-house that allow them to do, across companies, a lot of the things that companies want to have done to their data. So that's kind of an interesting development, but it's taken a long time because people have come slowly to it. I don't know if you are aware, but we had an epidemic fairly recently, and we were very concerned with it, certainly in the U.S. and in Africa, for Ebola virus. And a number of people from FDA, from White Oak, actually went, and one statistician even, went to Africa and worked on Ebola as a Commissioned Corps officers. So Commissioned Corps officers, a lot of CDC people, a lot of NIH people, a lot of people from this area, went and set up clinics to basically give service to care providers in Liberia and different countries in Africa. Along with that, obviously, people were very concerned with how do we test, how do we develop products that can help us. I mean, we had all of the people who came here and they gave them everything, and we never had any ability really to tell what helped. Even if they survived, we didn't know what did it. You didn't have a controlled study of sorts. And so there was a lot of question in NIH and within the FDA as to how could we do this better. And at the same time, CDISC was approached by WHO, who was having a lot of difficulty trying to figure out how do they collect all this data and put it in one place so that they can tell, even in the studies that they were able to do or see, what was happening. So they came to CDISC and they said, okay, can you help us with this? And I had a session, Shannon had a session that we helped organize at the DI annual meeting last year. And this session basically started with something from the FDA. It really was a report on, and I'm not going to show all the studies, but it's basically trying to set up a way to evaluate Ebola in a practical sense within Africa as you had new products that you wanted to test. So Dion Price, the division director of our antiviral division, provided that information. And there were studies that were designed, but obviously, not obviously, but it's difficult to study epidemics because by the time you get everything in place, then the epidemic's gone, so you don't have the patients. But this gave us an opportunity to think about it. And so we got together with NIH primarily, Michael Prochan, a couple of people that are prominent statisticians here. And so she presented, but then this is really looking at more at the standards. And somebody came from Oxford, and she was actually running the Vietnamese, there's a Vietnamese unit of Oxford University that does a lot of data management of trials in developing countries. And she says, I really need to have something that I can hold on to in terms of case report forms and promote in terms of variables and things so that we can collect and organize these data, because the WHO is pushing us to do this. And so she came and she was really on the grounds in Africa describing, how do you set up a randomized controlled trial in Africa? What is the source data? If you are behind the firewall and in the red zone, and you're trying to interview a patient, you have maybe 30 or 40 minutes before you have to get out of there because the heat's killing you and you got the suits on. And she was describing, well, some of the stuff that they were doing to collect the data was they'd write it down. Somebody would take a picture of it through the plastic, and then everything got burned because nothing could come out of that place or be stored. So there's a lot of special things you have to do if you're studying an epidemic and thinking about what kind of data you could collect to make it useful. So she gave us that picture. She went all over Africa at that time, and she came to see this thinking, this is something I want to get involved in. Maura Cush, also a pharmastat consultant, CRO, talked about and sort of has been leading and still leading an effort to figure out how to make CDISC standards that will help support Ebola research. So I'm only using this as an example that we're using standards so that they can support review. And the CDISC standards are much broader than that in the sense that they can support a broader sense of clinical research. And this just gives you a sense, and I've been involved in this for a year or so, and I can remember the first time we met, we had this WHO questionnaire and we were trying to figure out how we could characterize it, and then put it into those formats that I was talking about in terms of the SDTM or the data that we would be collecting or, thinking about analyzing. And so they gave us this one CRF, and then they all of a sudden they give us another CRF because they were changing those all the time. And they were really they were beyond CRFs. They weren't what you would collect just to study a drug. You have to think about what you do to care for the patient. So this is a combination of both patient care and clinical research put into some standardized format that allows you then to pull that data out and to collect it in a reasonable way. So that's Maura. And Maura Cush actually took this course about 3 or 4 years ago. Really appreciated it. So that's why I felt I better come. Leveraging CDISC standards to support Ebola research efforts to standardize data collection, started to annotate CRS we received from Oxford University Clinical Research using, and then we get into what you do is you go in to get all the things that are used to collect the data, and you see if you can describe and define all of something that will apply and be useful as a place to put those data. Ended up with a finalized 4-page CRF. The WA is shortened to only to collect the most important. So we got that, and then the WHO realized that they needed to do a much shorter form. But the WHO used the work from CDISC. This is about the project team and how it got together, Oxford and CDISC. What really struck me was this whole notion, and I talked about collecting data for trials and collecting data for submission to the agency, and those are all important. But you recognize that as you think about standards, there's a lot of other things that need to be collected, say if you're doing a public health, and even within TB, for example, which we had standards, and CDISC received a lot of money, I think, from the Gates Foundation to put together standards for TB studies. So this is happening in a lot of areas where not necessarily, they're big drug areas, but they're areas that people want to know more about what goes on. And then you're in a situation where, not like in a typical trial, you're in a situation where you got to identify contacts and keep information, and you have all that privacy, security issues associated with doing that. And then you have all the different cultures, obviously, in terms of what you can do, and you have to think about, when you don't have addresses for villages, and GPS becomes your only way of identifying somebody, and a lot of different things that they didn't necessarily have standards for, but they could come and they could borrow standards from different areas and put it together so that it would be something that would be useful for collecting data for Ebola. Here's some terms may need to be added: discussion in Basel and a new contact investigation domain, or a set of implementation rules to assist the collection and reporting of epidemiological data. So the whole thing of getting into the epi area and creating standardized data that people would be able to use in their research. What's next? Broadening CDISC standards from the traditional clinical trial setting to outbreak and public health situations. For Ebola, this means these kinds of things, and ensuring broad public review of the EVD draft so that we can get something that's useful. All of this is done in the public. Everything is available. You go to CDISC.org and you can find all of the standards. Everybody in the world can make a comment as to whether or not they understand something or that something else should be done. So then you get to EHRs, okay? I sort of took this on as my title. Laura Lee said, okay, your title is Data Standards and EHRs. And then after a while I said, well, EHRs is so huge. I mean, you could go on, and we've been talking about it for years, and we could talk for years to come. I'm just going to give you a little definition a little bit for people who aren't not familiar with EHRs, and some motivation from the agency side and the center, the CEDAR. And I think that people are really looking for EHRs to a great extent to reduce cost and research in clinical. So to reduce cost at the same time, help develop more medical products. How can this be done, you might say? One of the things that we did on our side, because a lot of times we hear from companies, they don't want to use EHRs for data collection because we won't accept it. We have, there's a lot of people that have rumors about what we do and what we don't like, and they don't ask us. They just make up the rumors, and then they go on from there. So we, back in 2013, set out a document that said, no, we're trying to promote the capture of electronic source data. And we produced that. And we then sort of sat around thinking, oh, we're going to have companies flocking in to say that they want to do this and this is going to help them. We didn't, okay? But Dr. Woodcock and a lot of the people at the agency said, we can't stop there. We got to keep going. Right now, there is a gentleman by the name of Rob Califf, who is the head of Duke Clinical Research, who is has been nominated to be the commissioner of FDA. And so he's still waiting approval by the Senate. And he and his deputy director, Rachel Sherman, wrote recently a blog that was kind of, you know, again, along the idea of encouraging the notion that FDA is not going to be just, you know, FDA would like to use any good evidence they could find. And electronic health records was mentioned in a blog that he wrote. And these real world sources are being thought of as things that potentially we could be thinking about for evidence. And then that takes a lot of creative thought. Also, other groups, even, you know, academics and things, are describing, and this one I think came out of Germany, I believe, but talking about EHR systems. But if you want to be useful for research, they have to be able to exchange information through use of recently published international standards. So they were pushing, you have to, if you want to have EHRs, and EHRs within the U.S. are a number of different competing companies. You have to be able to focus on standards in order to be able to use all of the power of the EHR. So EHR, electronic health records, digital versions of medical charts, real-time patient-centered records. How many people have a EHR when they go to their doctor? Everybody know? 1, 2? Okay. I'm in the military system, so we have an EHR. And I have found that even though people oftentimes want to kick the computer, they find that it's very useful for a lot of things. Certainly useful for me, because when I go over to Bethesda, or Walter Reed as it's now called, I don't have to go they used to have a file room with all of your individual records. And so you had to, if you wanted to go to a different doctor, you had to pull out the records from the file room and carry it to the doctor. And then, of course, you had to make sure that it got to, if you had to have 3 doctors, you know, like get referred to a specialist, then it might get caught between. But anyway, EHRs help that. Real-time patient-centered records. I think everybody agrees that it's having a lot of impact, a lot of money is being spent on it. And in clinical research, obviously, it's being used a lot too, because especially for hospital processes, a lot of hospital research, practice research is being done to try and determine, you know, what a good practice, how do you make it more efficient, things like that. Not a lot has been done within drug development, however, and clinical trials. Though there are a lot of remote data capture efforts in place, and those are being used, and that's taken slowly. The EHR has not been used a great deal. So what can EHRs do? They make patient information easier to find, that's for sure. Automate provider workflows, provide evidence-based tools, as long as you can make sure that that's the source data. Support changes in insurance requirements, okay. That's sort of a general view. What are the benefits? Improved quality of patient care, accuracy. So a lot of good things can come about with EHRs, and the hope is that a lot of those EHRs can be used for clinical research. One thing that I don't have here is that we have developed, and been told we had to develop, something called the Sentinel system, in which we get real-time reports out of a group of hospitals, out of the Pilgrim group up in Boston, and throughout the country, millions of patients, when they get a certain drug, we can study whether or not they have adverse events in sort of real time. And that's really a big benefit, because prior to this, after a drug was marketed, very little research is done. All we would get were spontaneous reports, which of course don't give you any kind of a denominator. So we are actually using EHRs for safety data to a great extent. But that's sort of post-approval on the data, the drugs that are available. And this describes all of the good things for EHRs. Now, I like this because, sometimes you hear EHI and EMR. Electronic medical record is the treatment history of a patient in one practice, potentially, whereas EHRs allow you to share data across a network, can be shared with all the clinicians, say, within a network. And I like this because if you really think about it, they do EDC, and you learned about EDC in an earlier course where people would enter data from either records or from maybe an EHR, this sort of describes the example of what it means to do that. It may be easier than getting the patient there and talking to them or finding something out, but it's a lot of work to pull it up and to re-enter it and do all that stuff. With EHRs, the hope and the intent is that will be, you enter it once and you use it many times. I won't try to go through all of that. But you see that EHRs can have a big advantage. We're very excited to get them going and used in clinical research. One of the things that we did recently is we went out and told people that we wanted them to submit projects that would demonstrate that EHRs could be used for clinical research using standardized clinical data, because that's what we're going to be receiving. So this sort of connects that whole thing about EHRs and what we're proposing and hoping to do. And now there's a web page out there that allows you to go and you can see all the projects that people proposed. It's all public record and who did it, because when something is submitted to us in this fashion, it goes to a docket that then becomes public record. So you can see all these different kinds of ideas that people had to sort of encourage the use of EHRs. And this is something tangible. We actually had some contract grant money that we were given to some of these to see whether or not they could demonstrate what they said they were doing. Of course, when we went out with this, everybody just thought we had a big pile of money and it was like a bunch of RFPs going out or something. But it wasn't. What we have been able to encourage through other mechanisms, some of the projects that we've noted here. So go out there and look at that and see what the people are proposing to do within the clinical trial environment, within a regulatory, and the things that you might do. So EHRs and how you do it, if you're in that piece of clinical research, you sort of still have to think about all the same qualities that you've learned throughout this course in terms of privacy and security and doing it right and planning prospectively and thinking about missing data and a lot of the issues that come into analyzing things. In conclusion, we're back to substantial evidence, okay? I hope that you can see that we have a lot of regulations and we do certain things, but it really comes down to the science of looking at the data and trying to encourage the collection of good data so that we can make decisions about drugs and what we say about drugs. I mean, I work, one of my divisions works with the GI division. Well, it's the GI and inborn errors. It's not unusual for me to go home after a big decision day when the letter goes out, and almost the next day, it seems, it's sitting in front of my television. The things that they're saying about that drug have to be the things that we said that they could say in the label and that we judge are reasonable. So all of that clinical research that went into developing that endpoint and then testing and then seeing if there was a difference all comes down to, oftentimes for us, the reality of seeing it right in our face if we watch television. And that's really unusual. If you think about EMA, they don't have to worry about that. They don't have television advertising in Europe. They don't have television advertising hardly anywhere in the world. There's only 2 or 3 countries in the world that allow manufacturers to advertise. So we're sort of in another big decision kind of, do we have the evidence to say certain things? And that's certainly makes it interesting, but always a worry as to whether or not, are we maintaining that level playing field? Do we have the standards that we need? And the standardized data is a big part of that. Remember, CDISC standardized data. CDISC stands for Clinical Data Interchange Standards Consortium. And those are going to be requirements for the agency and hopefully adopted by a broader group of clinical trialists throughout the world. So using e-health records will be part of that, and if those standards get into that environment successfully, then they'll be able to be used for medical product development. And I think I've gone way past my time, but I do appreciate you guys being here. And for all of you who are out there listening to this, think about what an agency like this, a regulatory agency, has to do to collect data. It's something that's a little different. It's transparent to us, but we have that kind of thing. If you're doing clinical research, look over your shoulder and sort of think, if I had an FDA, what would I be, sitting behind me thinking about what I'm doing? What should I do in this case? Because I think that the FDA has defined, ways in which you do good clinical research. And it's useful for everybody to sort of have that, even if you're not submitting to the FDA. And then what we're finding now is that we're having to use data for certain things that companies bring in that weren't necessarily collected by the company, but they were collected by other researchers. And it would be very beneficial for us to be able to assure ourselves that we can use that data and that they are good data for the kind of evidence that we need. So anyway, thank you. Have a good evening. Did it stop raining? I hope. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.